I love how many flavors of the world flow through my kitchen. Thailand, India, Morocco. But more often than not, I turn to Italy for inspiration. Let me share a secret recipe. Discover an ingredient that fires your imagination. Choose other flavors to match. Find the best way to cook them. My secret recipe? Cooking without a recipe. There's just something about the flavors of Italy that I'm craving today. Simple, rustic, easy to prepare, easy to eat. Sounds like dinner to me. I picked this ground beef up the other day figuring I'd make hamburgers or meatloaf, but now with Italy for inspiration, I've got a better idea. Meatballs. With tomato sauce and spaghetti, a guaranteed hit. At their simplest, meatballs are really just balls of ground beef simmered in tomato sauce. But they're not just small, round hamburgers. If they were, they'd toughen and dry out. So the key to a great meatball is to lighten up the meat and make it taste better. And the best way to do that is to add two different types of ingredients. Those that add flavor and those that add moisture. A jar of breadcrumbs isn't normally the first thing you'd think of when it comes to adding moisture. But these are actually one of the secret ingredients in a great meatball because these can hold moisture. Here's one source of that moisture, milk, but you can't just pour it straight in. I learned that the hard way the first time I ever made meatballs on my own. My mom used to make them all the time, and she always said, it's the milk that makes my meatballs so moist. So naturally, I just poured some straight into the meat, and naturally it just leaked straight out of the meat. A quick phone call home, and I had it all figured out. Turns out the key is to let the breadcrumbs absorb and carry the milk. 1 pound of ground beef, half a cup of breadcrumbs, half a cup of milk. Stir the milk and the breadcrumbs together. Make sort of a sticky paste. Here's another source of moisture and flavor. Instead of cooking the onion and then adding it to the mixture, you can grate it in raw and add lots of moisture and, of course, the sharp onion flavor. There's only a drop or two of moisture here, but there's about a gallon's worth of flavor. Now here's something that won't really add moisture or flavor, but it will help to hold all that onion moisture. Some good old-fashioned egg glue. Now you could just toss this straight in, without the shell of course, but take a second and get rid of the white. It's the yolk that has the power of the glue, and the yolk adds richness. The white, well, it just kind of toughens up in the mix. This won't toughen up though. Once the breadcrumbs absorb the milk and get mixed into the meat, they actually tenderize the works. That was my mom's secret. Now here's one of mine. I like to sneak in a little bit of French nutmeg, a pinch of je ne sais quoi, and a lot of flavor. This isn't just my secret. There's lots of great Italian restaurants out there that sneak a little bit of nutmeg into their famous meatballs. And just some simple flat leaf Italian parsley. There's lots of flavor here too. Here's some more classic flavor. You can't go wrong with a bit of Parmesan. About half a cup or so. And last but not least, salt, and pepper. Now for the fun part, but try not to overmix them. You really only need to make sure that everything is combined, and feel free to make them any size you want. Oh, you can smell the flavor in here. When there's this much flavor in the mix, though, I like a big meatball, so I usually make 8. That's 2 for everybody and 2 extras for the cook.
Those are big meatballs.
My family loves the flavors of Italy.
It's the biggest meatballs I've ever seen.
And I love how easy they are to get on the table. So for dinner tonight, I'm adding some of my mom's flavors and some of my own spin to some Italian classics. Like meatballs, ground beef moistened with my mom's milk-soaked breadcrumbs, flavored with grated onion, minced garlic, parsley, and a pinch of my secret nutmeg, all held together by a simple egg yolk. And now they're simmering away in a simple tomato sauce. I'm sure I'll have no trouble convincing Gabe to empty his bowl tonight, and when he does, there just might be a little treat waiting for him. How about some Italian cookies? In Italy, the biscotti reigns supreme. Biscotti cookie dough is actually a lot like other cookie doughs. You begin by basically beating butter and sugar together. 1 cup of sugar and a half stick of butter. One of the neat things about biscotti is how many different ways you can flavor them. And there's lots of choices in your pantry. Nuts, for instance. Any nut works, and so do the baking spices. Ginger, cinnamon, cloves, allspice, cardamom, star anise, all great choices. And so are orange and lemon peel. Lots of true citrus flavor there. But if you're living with a 4-year-old food critic, your decision is already made for you. You can't go wrong with chocolate chips and cocoa. Lots of deep, dark, rich, chocolatey flavor here. 2 spoonfuls. And 2 cups of all-purpose flour. And a teaspoon or so of baking powder. Whisking the dry ingredients together now really helps to distribute them evenly throughout the final dough. Big splash of flavor enhancer, vanilla. There's no such thing as stirring in too much vanilla. Wet ingredients, dry ingredients, and they only need to be stirred just long enough to combine. And as soon as everything stirs together, start pouring in the chocolate chips. About a cup or so, as much as the dough can handle. And they just need to be stirred together as well. Biscotti are actually baked twice. First in a sort of loaf form like this, and after this is baked through, it's actually sliced into individual cookies which are baked a second time, and that's the key to their crispy, crunchy texture. If you do a lot of baking, you've probably seen 350 on your dial once or twice. You might appreciate one of these non-stick baking mats too. Nothing sticks to these things. There sure are a lot of gizmos and gadgets out there for baking. Since cooking was invented, cooks have collected tools, and sometimes even used them. It's easy to be seduced by the greatest thing since the bread slicer, but ask yourself, do I really need a roast lifter, or is this just a new dust collector? Have you ever had to cut a pie into 7 pieces? Well, with this and an engineering degree, you're all set. Accurate measuring is important though, and so is the latest in UFO design, which can come in handy if you need to poach an egg or if you need a centerpiece for your next garage sale. But if you're an avid baker, these silicone-lined non-stick mats are quite useful. They can go from the hottest oven to the coldest freezer and nothing will stick to them, not even the mess. In fact, silicone is one of the hottest trends in kitchens today. How about an easy-to-use, easy-to-clean pastry brush? And speaking of easy to clean, of all the things that you can plug into your kitchen, this is the handiest. An immersion blender. It's way better than an old-fashioned blender because this will make anything smooth, including cleanup. All you have to do is plug and play. There's a lot of flavor in here right now, but in a sense, the first bake is really just to encourage everything to hold together because there's a hidden texture in here waiting to be released. So now for the classic shape of a biscotti. It's time to cut this into individual cookies. And you'll find that a serrated knife works best for this because it allows you to saw without crushing. Nice and thick, but still a bit soft inside. Not that far off from bread dough, actually. That's why the second baking is so key for biscotti. It dries these out. It makes them crisp and crunchy. Take a second and turn your oven down a notch. So let's see, chocolate chips and biscotti, nutmeg and meatballs. What else can I stir into an Italian classic? Around here, we love the flavors of Italy. They taste great, they're easy to get on the table, and they're easy to play with too. Like adding a pinch of French nutmeg to a classic Italian meatball, ground beef moistened with milk-soaked breadcrumbs, flavored with grated onion, minced garlic, and parsley, all held together by a simple egg yolk. Or biscotti, twice-baked cookies made from butter, sugar, egg, vanilla, flour, baking powder, and today, cocoa powder and chocolate chips. There's nothing like a bowl full of authentic Italian flavors, especially if you've stirred some of your own ideas in. And that goes for the pasta bowl and the salad bowl. fennel, arugula, Parmesan. It's easy to inspire a salad with the flavors of Italy. Arugula has an unmistakable peppery, nutty sort of flavor, which means it goes well with fennel, which also has a strong flavor, a sort of crisp licorice-like flavor, and it's easy to get this into a salad. Green and white, this is a good start, but for this salad to be truly Italian inspired, it needs the third color of the Italian flag. Some bright red tomato, and you can use any kind of tomato. These are sun-dried tomatoes. Now all these strong Italian flavors are going to need a dressing full of strong Italian flavor too. For a while there, you couldn't open a restaurant menu or turn the corner in your supermarket without bumping into a bottle of this. Balsamic vinegar. It was pretty trendy there a few years back, and I still use it all the time because, well, I love the taste of 1,000 years of tradition distilled into a little bottle of vinegar. A good rule of thumb for any dressing is to start with 1 big splash of the vinegar, then add 2 big splashes of oil, and in this case the only real choice is extra virgin olive oil. A little bit of mustard helps the oil and the vinegar combine into a smooth dressing, and a touch of honey, a touch of salt and pepper, and a little bit of elbow grease. That's it. Balsamic vinaigrette. It's pretty simple, actually. Let's see now. Parmesan. Now, if you like, you can simply shave Parmesan cheese right into the salad with a vegetable peeler. But if you've got a few extra minutes and you want to jazz it up a bit, try making some Frico's, Parmesan crisps. And you can always add a little bit of extra flavor to it as well. You can stir dried oregano and dried basil into just about anything and give it a good Italian flavor boost, but my favorite Italian spice by far is fennel seed. Italian food is so common around here that sometimes we forget it's Italian at all. Probably because it's so easy to make and it's so easy to enjoy. I mean, what could be simpler than spaghetti and meatballs? When you're cooking pasta, it's not a good idea to add any oil to the water, because when you drain the works, you end up coating each little piece of pasta with some oil, and that prevents the sauce from sticking to it. For that same reason, it's not a good idea to rinse the pasta either. There's a little bit of starch on each piece, and that helps the sauce adhere. And when you've got a sauce like this, you want it to adhere. And these meatballs turned out really good. Boy, there's a lot of flavor in these too. Meatballs are all about moisture and flavor, and these are full of both. Grated onions, ground beef, garlic, a touch of my secret nutmeg. Actually, there's a lot of Italian restaurants out there that use a little bit of French nutmeg. And my mom's trick, she would always soak breadcrumbs in milk and then work that into the mixture. That adds lots of moisture, and it adds a nice tender texture too. I've got just the topping for the salad. Parmesan crisp. The Italians call this frico, and really all it is grated Parmesan cheese baked off in the oven until it's golden brown. And in this case, I added a little bit of fennel seed for flavor. I can't wait to hear Gabe say, "Pass the frico, Daddy." I can't wait till he says, "Pass the biscotti," too. Now these were invented for dipping. They're perfect for dipping. They soak up whatever they're dipped into. In fact, in Italy, it's classic to dip them into espresso. It's also classic to make one of the all-time simplest treats, affogato, which means I'm drowning. Ice cream drowning in espresso. And this is custom made for dipping biscotti into. You know, it never ceases to amaze me how some of the very, very best dishes out there are some of the simplest. But I'll wait my turn. I've got some spaghetti and meatballs to look after first. You know, you don't have to stamp your passport to enjoy the simplicity of Italian flavors. You can start a little culinary expedition in your own kitchen any day of the week. Would you like some salad, arugula, fennel, tomatoes, balsamic vinaigrette, and a whole lot of love.
This is the biggest meatballs I've ever seen.
Can you taste the nutmeg in the meatballs?
Mm-hmm.
Here's to juicy, tasty meatballs. Cheers! Who wants a treat?
I do.
This one is called ice cream with a twice-baked chocolate chip cookie. It's amazing how something so simple can taste so good.